All right, so first off, guys, give yourself a big round of applause for being here today. There's so many things you could be doing, and you took the time to come here, so that's the first step, and I give you guys huge, I'm already going to start crying.
I'm going to start crying. I don't even cry.
This seminar means a lot to me, and the person I'm going to introduce means a lot to me. My life has changed drastically, radically, insanely in the last 2 years because of the person that's sitting here beside me. And it is my sincere hope that you can take something out of here today and that your life can change as much as mine, because I'm telling you, where I was 2 years ago versus where I am today is a completely different person. So I do want to share a little bit of my story with you guys, because I want you to understand where you can start and where you can end up, because I know a lot of people, how many people have been discouraged in their diet and nutrition life? 2 hands and a foot for that one, right? Get a foot in there. Needless to say, many of you have been patients for many years with me, know me well enough, and if you've been with me long enough, you know I used to be a much heavier person, a lot heavier than I am now, and I actually struggled with my weight my entire life. I was very overweight. I was at unhealthy weight, not for lack of trying. I was the hardest trier there ever was, let me tell you. I never gave up, but I tried every single diet. I tried every single nutrition plan. I tried every possibility of being healthy that I possibly could, and nothing worked long term. And I got stuck in a cycle because I thought the only way you could lose weight is by cutting out all your carbs and all your sugar and doing, you know, a complete anti-inflammatory / ketogenic diet. And I tried and I tried and I tried and I tried, and I failed and I failed and I failed and I failed. Because what would happen is I would lose all this weight, which you'll find out in a minute is all water weight, not actual fat weight. And then I would gain it all back, and I'd lose it, and I would gain it, and I would lose it, and again. Who's been down that rat race? Around that treadmill? Yep. That's why we're here tonight, and I tried to make it really clear on the seminar flyer what this was about. If you struggle with the diet or you just want to be healthier, this is the seminar for you. So just to share a couple things about myself, I really struggled, especially with sugar. It was very difficult for me. There was points in my life where I would just sit and cry because I didn't want to eat sugar, but I couldn't stop myself. And I would just keep eating it, even though I didn't want to, and I knew not to, because you know well enough, I am a chiropractor, I do teach nutrition, and I know better, but I couldn't stop. And what I come to find out was my body actually needed carbohydrates. And for the last 2 years, I've had carbohydrates in my diet, and I'm actually healthier now, and I weigh less now than I did in grade 8. So the truth is, guys, you don't have to keep going around the rat race. And the thing is, if you've been doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result, tonight's about doing something different, but getting a completely different result. Because I was at the point a couple years ago where I actually was ready to give up family functions. That's how bad it was for me with my nutrition, because I couldn't be around food. I couldn't be around a buffet. There's no chance of me going to a buffet, because if I had one bite of something, I wanted 10 of it, plus a whole bunch of other sugar to go with it. I was at the point where even birthdays, family functions, I really struggled, because anytime I ate some sugar or ate a piece of cake, like everyone should be able to enjoy now and then in their life, it would send me on a spiral downhill. So I want you to know, I understand where you are if you're that person struggling, and there is hope, and your life can change. Yeah. And I'll be honest, Kelly flew from Arizona to be here with us today, so we're the impact she's had on my life. And to be honest, guys, I've referred a chunk of people to Kelly, and every person I've referred to Kelly has had amazing results. So just know that if you choose it's something you want to do, I promise you'll get good results. She's going to teach you how to do this on your own, so it's not like you have to, but I do suggest if it's something you need and you're at a place where I am right now, then I highly encourage you to reach out if you need the help, because your life can transform. And I'm just so excited for what we have for today, so I just want to introduce Kelly Michelle. Thank
you. So everybody's journey is a little bit different, and this is a really touching one.
I have voice modulation.
Just a little further away.
I'm happy out here, right here. Like I'm lunging.
Oh. Okay, is that better?
Yeah. How's that? Great.
Yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. 1 foot. 1 foot in front of the other.
There you go.
But if I get carried away, you guys, it's going to be loud. Yeah, because I'm like a 10, but most days a 12. So, before we get started, I would like to bring up one of my clients that I've been working with that is a patient of Dr. Leanne's, and his name is Joshua Tustin. And Joshua, you've been with me over 7 months.
Just shy of 7.
Just shy of 7 months. My memory.
I know it's going bad.
41, guys, is where it happens.
We're all-
Well,
It's all downhill from there.
all downhill, yep. So when Joshua started with me, and we actually filmed a video today that we'll make available for some of you to watch in entirety. I think it was about 25 minutes.
Probably.
I won't have him share his whole testimony, but this is the sweatshirt that Joshua was wearing when he started with me. It's an XXXL. Yes, right?
This fit.
It fit pretty well. And in our first interview together on the phone, because I make sure that I talk to either my clients on video or over the phone first to figure out exactly what they're struggling with, because we're gonna have a marriage, and sometimes we're gonna have a longer marriage than other people have with me. I knew that my marriage was gonna be a little bit shorter with this guy because he was ready to go. And I mean, he was a finance guy. So finance guys are really good at balancing budgets, right? So what I'm gonna teach you guys today and offer value to you is how to balance your budget using calories. Because everybody's counting calories, right? Thank you, Josh. Oh my gosh. How much weight have you lost? How much body fat have you lost?
I've lost 4 pant sizes, 5 belt loops, 7 inches on my waist.
And total pounds?
4 pounds, 33.
Awesome. So the key and critical part of why you guys are here is a lot of you are probably interested in having better energy. Yes. How many people are in here tonight to learn about having better energy throughout the day? Raise your hand. Awesome. Fat loss, raise your hand. Weight loss. Keep those hands up. Weight loss. Of all the people who have their hands up tonight for weight loss, have any of you guys done a diet in the past and kept all of the weight off? Raise your hand. Keep it up if you have. That's the first time I've asked this question. So, 0 people kept their hand up. The United States and Canada has about a 95% fail rate with keeping fat loss off once we lose it. And part of that is just because what we're looking at as overall weight loss is not all fat. We don't teach people that part of that is water, part of it is fiber or bulk in your intestinal tract, and they don't tell people why their weight fluctuates on a day-to-day basis. So we get discouraged and we quit because it's not fast enough. Right? Okay. Now we're getting somewhere, right? So Dr. Leanne talked about water weight loss. How many people in here have tried ketogenic diet? I'm gonna raise my hand. How many people in here have tried a low protein, high fat, moderate carbohydrate diet? Raise your hand. How many people have gone with no carbs whatsoever but higher protein and higher fat? Raise your hand. And how many of you have never dieted? Awesome. If you have never dieted, there's probably a good chance that you've got things under control. Right? And if you've never dieted but you are overweight, you have a higher probability of losing fat faster than anybody else. Why? Because you have not adapted to that lower, adaptive, smaller amount of calories that you have had to restrict yourself to for so many years. And you will never lose body fat because you're eating 800 to 1,000 calories less than what you need to maintain your resting metabolic rate, okay? Which means you're doing nothing but just your normal fidgeting, right? That's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So we answer the phone, we're walking the dog, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, right? How many people in here are very active for work? Raise your hand. A lot of guys. Good. Yes. Dr. Leanne, very active for work. She's like, I don't think you understand it, Kelly. I am moving all day long, 14 hours. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, chiropractor? I didn't know. I saw it today. Back and forth, like dancing. So I knew that Dr. Leanne's RMR, resting metabolic rate, the calories that I had written down for her initially might be just shy of perfect because she had more non-exercise activity thermogenesis. But what about those of us who are fairly sedentary? Raise your hand. So maybe we don't need as many calories, right? Maybe we don't need as many carbohydrates as the people who have a higher activity level. So, typically we are on an all or nothing diet, aren't we? We're either in or we're out, right? We're on or we're off the plan. This weekend we're going to go out for a cheat meal. Raise your hand if you've ever had a cheat meal. Me too. For many, many years. So you're good all week, right? I'm good. What is good? You eat clean. What's clean? What's clean eating?
Vegetables.
Vegetables. Are they clean? Did you wash them? Right? Those are clean, right? What else? What's clean? Fruit? Fruit, clean, we washed it. Okay. What else? Without preservatives. That was a great answer. Okay. Say that a little bit. Unprocessed foods. So, couldn't we have something delicious in a package that isn't highly processed? We could, right? Most people label anything in a package off limits. And anything that we label off limits, we are going to want more, aren't we, folks? I'm just going to give up pizza for the rest of my life. Cheat meal. Weekend comes, cheat meal. So all week long we've restricted and we have hardly any carbs except from clean sources. Guys, all carbohydrates are converted to glucose. I am a nutrition scientist. I did my master's degree in nutrition science. I did my thesis on insulin resistance in type 2 diabetics and polycystic ovarian syndrome. And there are so many correlations that people like to make with carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are the most demonized of all of the macro groups, which are proteins, carbs, and fats. And all three of those macros are what makes up your calories for the day, right? So wouldn't it be important to know how many calories are in each of those macros? Protein, 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram. Fat, 9 calories per gram. Even in healthy fat. Healthy fats, what are those? Nuts. Nuts, 6s and 9s. Misconception, those are healthy. They aren't the best, right? So there's all these food stigmas associated with different types of food. Clean food, nuts would be considered in most people's mind a clean food, right? What would another clean fat be? Clean.
Avocado.
Yes, avocado. Is that a 3? Does anybody know? Omega-3?
Fish oil.
Yes. Omega-3 fish oil. Omega-3s are in avocados. Yes. So there's a lot of misinformation out there about what contributes to fat gain. But the number one contribution is you don't know what you're eating. You just don't know. And it's nobody's fault, because I didn't know either until I got educated. And that was only about 6 years ago. I went back at 36 years old to get a master's degree because what I was seeing with my clients anecdotally as a trainer was the ones who followed their macros lost at a monumental rate in comparison to those who did their meal prep and followed a meal plan, which by the way is unsustainable because you're never going to eat the same 10 foods for the rest of your life. And they had a far greater issue psychologically because they carried all the guilt from failing every week by going out for their cheat meal because they had nothing good during the week. So they would eat clean all week long, following this rigid, strict diet plan, and on the weekend, they would binge every weekend. And I don't mean most of them went out and ate an entire cake or an entire pizza, but they would certainly make up for the calorie deficit that they were in during the week on the weekend, and that chased them by 3 or 4 days. So they'd jump on the scale on Monday morning after they had had their cheat weekend, because it's never a cheat meal. Is it, guys? It's a cheat day, or 2, I know, because I did it for years, 10 years. And by the time Monday would roll around, they'd jump on the scale, I didn't gain any weight. And my answer to them was, wait until Wednesday, when your fat catches up with you. Because fat is the second energy source. It's used very last, behind carbohydrates for fuel, which are first and lowest in calories, right? And when you don't have enough carbs, what does your body go after next?
Your protein?
Protein. That's really bad for those of us who are over 30, right? Because what do we know about people that hit 30? We start to decrease in hormone potential, right? And if you've had kids in your 20s, it's even worse. Because by the time you're 30, you're there. And then it starts. You start to put on 10 pounds, and then it's 15, and then it's 20 in the midsection. And it's because you've been drinking alcohol. No, it's not. It's because you've been restricting all week long and binging on the weekends. And anytime your body gets what it needs, it stores it for future use. Or not, right? So carbs are the same. If we're going to eat carbs, would we want to eat all of our carbs at breakfast? Probably not, right? But would we want to eat maybe more carbs at breakfast when we know we're going to be really active throughout the day? Yes. And would we want to maybe, if we're only going to have 100 grams of carbs, would we want to maybe split those up into evenly proportioned sittings? Makes sense, right? It does for blood sugar too. Because when you eat, it doesn't matter if you don't have carbs or not. You are going to have an insulin spike. Insulin is not the devil. It really isn't. Insulin is demonized too, right alongside carbs. But insulin and carbohydrates are not the only thing responsible for fat storage. In fact, fat is very responsible for fat storage, right? If you overconsume carbohydrates and fat, you will gain because you're in a calorie surplus, right? So we've got to find out what your needs are. We've got to find out every single person in this room's needs. Your needs are different from my needs, aren't they? Your needs, you're a male, different from my needs, right? I'm a female. I'm strong, but I'm a female. I'm still a female. So every single one of you has different stresses, different lifestyle, is a different age. All of you have gone through different traumas, right? Many people in here have dieted for longer than 10 years. Go ahead and raise your hand if you've been on a diet for longer than 10 years of your life. The average diet for females lasts 17 to 20 years of your life. That's a fifth of your life. For most people, if they're going to live to be 100. And we will. Because we've got Dr. Leanne. I found out today I have the worst neck she's ever seen. And I know why. Because I'm a level 12. And level 12 is computering, and level 12 has a lot of stress. And level 12 has been through a lot of trauma, and level 12 had a terrible upbringing, a terrible relationship with food, an eating disorder, and I'm here to stand here and tell you today that the only saving grace for me was figuring out energy balance for me and realizing that I wasn't going to be like somebody else, okay? So, everybody have a smartphone in here? Okay, so what we need to do first is we need to pull out the smartphone. Greg. And on your paper here, it says, personal starter weight. If you don't want your spouse to see that, it's okay. Just go ahead and write it on the back of the paper. Because sometimes that is a really touchy subject. Yeah, if you know your weight right now or approximation, go ahead and write that in personal starter weight. What did you say? We've got some comedians over here. And I like that. And if you don't know your weight, just do a roundabout estimate, okay? And you're going to take that starter weight times 10, times 1.2, and the calculation that you come up with, you're going to put in that second blank next to the 12,
We're gonna see some heads spin right now. This is gonna be an eye opener.
Are you having anxiety? Tell us why. Tell us why.
Because that's a big number.
That's his number?
Yeah,
You don't need that. You don't use it.
no. Some of you guys are probably having anxiety right now because you're trying to figure this out. I'm gonna help you. Do not leave. Do not leave by looking at this number, because the sad thing is, this is your calorie intake at rest. Resting metabolic rate. Now, if any of you are in menopause or past, if any of you have low testosterone, if any of you have autoimmune disorder of any sort, if any of you have type 2 diabetes, you have potential to be about 25 to 30% lower from that number. Breathe easy, my friends. Breathe easy. But if you're looking at that number, that's the amount of calories, or close, very close, to what your body needs to maintain your weight. How many people in here are eating underneath that number right now, greatly? Raise your hand. It's okay. Don't worry, I was 1,000 calories under when I started. Pretty bad. How many people are over that number? Raise your hand. Or if you don't know, raise your hand. Cool. We're going to make a lot of progress today. Okay. And then for those of you who do at least 30 to 45 minutes of activity, and I mean vigorous, so not walking. Okay, walking doesn't count. Vigorous activity, you would be a 1.4 multiplier. For those of you who are more sedentary, you would be a 1.3 multiplier. Okay, so remember that. If you're sitting at a desk all day, you'd be a 1.3. If you don't do much activity other than walking, you'd be a 1.3. Okay, so now you're going to take your weight times 10 times your new multiplier, whether it's 1.3 or 1.4. And anybody in here a high performance athlete? Anyone in here a teenager? 1.5. Gentlemen, does that look good back there? My teenagers? How many calories did you come up with? How many? $3,000? Teenagers have it so good. Oh no! Calories. Yeah, if you're sedentary, 1.3. If you're moderately active for your job and also work out 2 or 3, 4 days a week, and you do more than a half an hour of vigorous exercise, go ahead and do a 1.4. You're going to be close. And then my teenagers, 1.5, baby. Why? Because their hormones are not compromised. Yes.
Does the 1.3 come after the 1.2?
Nope. Okay. No, it's going to be a separate equation. So keep your resting metabolic calories up in the 10 times 1.2 category. Underneath that says working RMR estimate would be, you can use 13, or you can use 1.3, or you can use 14 or 1.4, and you would use the same equation as up top. So your weight times 10 times 1.4, or your weight times 10 times 1.3, or 13 or 14. Either one. They're very close. People are losing me, aren't they? Oh my gosh, I have to eat this much food. You don't. Okay, so now you have an idea of how much you're under eating or overeating. Okay? It's astonishing, isn't it? Go ahead and raise your hand. Let's hear some questions. Yep.
Okay, so we were talking about teenagers for a second. Ken says he needs 1,830 calories.
1,000?
Yeah. So you just like, he's on
Your equation's wrong. Oh, 1,800. 1,800.
calories.
Yeah, he does nothing all day? Okay. Very well, you're fine. you need to get moving. The possibilities are so large. But then mom's gonna be broke too. Because she'll be feeding you and feeding you and feeding you and feeding you. 1,800, that's fine. So you're not a very big guy. 130?
122.
Okay. Nailed it. Yeah. Okay, so now we have an idea. Yes.
So you're not talking ice cream calories here.
I'm talking on calories.
Any kind of calorie.
Any kind of calories. Alcohol, 7 calories per gram. If you drink a bottle of wine at night, that's 100 grams of carbs or more. If you have 2 or 3 glasses, that's 50 to 75 grams of carbs, which times 4, do the math, that's your calories from alcohol right there. Alcohol is 7 calories per gram. I have my clients count it as a carbohydrate because it most mimics a carbohydrate by what it does to the blood sugar. It does not mimic a protein one bit. It does not mimic a fat at all. It does mimic a carb because it does spike insulin. So that's what, as a nutrition scientist, that's what I thought was most responsible as far as tracking alcohol because it has calories. So we need to account for it. It's not free, folks. Yes? Oh, we're getting to that later. Yep, that's definitely, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Yeah, so all of your calories that you consume throughout the day, like she asked about ice cream, most of the time you just pretend you didn't have that, right? I
No,
know.
it was my cheat meal on the weekend.
You need to have one bowl every night. Okay, because, and I only say that because on the weekends, you have half a pint, don't you?
I did.
It's okay, we all do. So I buy things that I can eat the whole pint of, because I'm like, what? Half a pint? That's like a cup. That's awful, right? It's terrible. Who wants to eat this little bit of ice cream? So I save my macros. But here's what we need to know. So all of you have an RMR. Most of you, if you track your food, are going to be closer to that than you think. The reason you don't think that you're close is because you didn't add the alcohol, right? We didn't add the weekend binge foods. We didn't add the things that make us feel guilty, right? Because then we'd have to really look at it. It's like counseling. We'd have to really look at the things that are actually setting us back, right? So we need to load either MyFitnessPal as a tracking device on your phone. In my opinion, it's the best macro tracker. It does have some glitches in the system, and I'll tell you guys about those quickly because MyFitnessPal has those glitches, but so do all of the other tracking systems, okay? Anyone can put any data into MyFitnessPal. It's very important that you actually look at the data to make sure that it's not missing proteins, carbs, and fats, and calories. And the calories are almost always incorrect, aren't they, Barb?
Yes.
Did you learn that today?
Yes.
Yep. But if your macros are the same every day, your calories are the same every day because protein is 4 calories per gram, right? Carbs, 4 calories per gram, and fat, 9 calories per gram. So when you go to look at your totals at the end of the week, after you guys have done your logging for a week, or even 3 days, if you get to a place where you're like, I hate logging my food, you know you can't track macros. This method is not going to work for you. And it is okay, because it isn't a good fit for some people. Anorexics, I wouldn't recommend it, because they're already very scale conscious. They're already very meticulous about everything. And we don't really want them to be overanalyzing everything they do. Teenagers, I wouldn't have them track their food as strictly as I would someone who wants to lose body fat. Because with my teenagers, I'm just trying to get them to be lean, mean fighting machines, right? And they already have an optimal hormone function, because they haven't even hit 20 yet. Woohoo! Awesome, love it while you can. You're a food machine. And they're also gonna be using that fuel more efficiently than we will, and I say we because I'm over 40. Because as we age, again, the first thing to go is our hormone profile, right? So, if we restrict certain foods throughout the week, and this is what you guys are gonna be looking for. You start out the day and you ate a clean breakfast, right? Then you had a salad with some protein for lunch. When you get home at night, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna binge. I'm right. And I know because I did it. Shelly? Right?
Yep.
Yep. Joshua?
No, never, not once.
Kelly, yes. Leanne, every day, right? Yep. Because again, if in the beginning of the day, when you're most active, you're not getting enough food, your body's gonna ask for what it needs at night, which is glucose and dietary fat and protein. All three macronutrients, right? So wouldn't it be best for us to learn to pair those perfectly at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and have some of the things that we like every single day to keep us on our plan? So, how many people in here have heard about flexible dieting? Raise your hand. Gosh, only my clients. Great. This is awesome. Okay, there is a term in the United States and it grew rapidly, and I was one of the first people to teach the concept. And that is, if you were on a meal plan, and the meal plan called for broccoli, chicken, and let's say potato, right? But you don't like broccoli, but you're eating it every day because your bro trainer told you that this is what's gonna get you lean. What if we exchanged broccoli for peas because you like that better? Would there be any difference?
Yes.
No, there wouldn't. Exactly the same. Cool, right?
You feel better though, not eating broccoli.
I don't like broccoli, so you're right, I love peas. And I'm gonna have a little bit more sugar in the peas, which means that those carbs are gonna be used a little bit faster, aren't they? So the only difference with carbohydrate intake is how fast is that glucose gonna be used? Are bananas gonna be used fast?
Yes.
You got it. Why? They don't have fiber, not much, and they've got a lot of sugar, right? So what is the number one factor that would change the way that a carb is used? Fiber. Yeah, fiber. So if you have a high fiber bread, is it superior to a white bread? No. No. Does it have more nutrients? Yes, it does. So is it superior for people with type 2? Yeah. Better that they have brown bread, right? It is exactly the same, folks. Is white rice better than brown rice, or is brown rice better?
Brown rice is better.
White rice tastes better.
It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Is sweet potato better than red potato? Now we're getting it. It's exactly the same. The macros are the same. They're exactly the same. What makes them different, what makes sweet potato different from red potato is fiber. Sweet potato has way more fiber. Would sweet potato be a better choice for someone with type 2 diabetes? You got it. Because the rate at which they convert glucose is not very fast. They are insulin resistant. They have more free glucose in the system than somebody without it, okay? So, do we limit pizza from our diet? That's the right answer. We don't. Now, do we deprive ourselves all week so that we want 7 pieces when we go out? Nope. We have 2 pieces with a piece of protein and we're very satiated, right? Because 2 pieces is very satiating if you have not starved all day. You will not binge, especially if you add a little more protein to that meal where you have protein before you go out for pizza, right? So protein is the most satiating of all of the macros. And to be honest with you, it does more for the human body than carbs and fat will ever do. But they are just as important. Because carbs are your body's first energy source. What else do carbs do? I told you in the beginning, and so did Leanne. Who's gonna get this? Carbohydrate.
Hydrate your body.
They hold water. That's their job. So when you go on the keto diet, you get super excited the first week because you drop 10 to 15 pounds. How, what? It's not fat, folks. It's water. And it will be back as soon as you introduce the carbohydrate, right? Because he holds water, that's his duty. So he holds water in the cells. So when guys go to the gym and they eat carbohydrates before they train, they get a good pump, right? Without it, you won't get one. You're holding no potassium or sodium in the muscle tissue, thus you have no pump. So if you go to the gym and you have no bang because you have no carbs, that's the reason why, right? If you eat the same thing before you train, you're gonna feel the same way, which is, eh. If you change things up, you're probably gonna figure out that you train really, really well off different things, but you would have never known because you didn't change your food. So it's the same thing. You get food fatigue very quickly, and we quit the diet, right? Dr. Leanne has something in her diet every single day that she likes. Joshua, you do too, don't you? Probably 3 or 4 things. He has a lot of macros. He has more macros than we ever probably thought we would have had at this point in time, and he has 33 pounds off. And I got his first 25 pounds off of him by starting him right where you guys are, which is eating next to nothing, and increasing his food little by little so that he had enough of each macro group, okay? So your duty is to track your food, and you're going to use the mock form on the back of your little handout here. And if any of you would like me to designate your starter macros for you, that's why we're doing this, because I want to bring you tons of value. The online calculators will not get you accurate like I will, and I will do that for you guys all for free. So all you have to do is track your food for 7 days, everything you eat and drink, and you're going to use the search module in MyFitnessPal, and if you can use foods with a green check mark, verified data, that's going to be the best method. So if you have a medium apple, put medium apple in the search menu. You'll see hundreds of different things come up for medium apple. Look for the green check mark. Okay, that's USDA verified data, which is better than nothing. Or if you have a food scale at home, you can weigh it in grams, put in red apple, 100 grams, and it's going to give you the data. Cool, right? We don't need to get that far yet. And what I want you guys to think of is adopting an 80-20 eating lifestyle. 80% high quality, nutrient dense foods. So let's talk about that for a minute. We had a few things that came out, and what were they again? Nuts. Fat, right? They're fats. They also have a little bit of protein, but of course all of the clever advertising calls them a protein when they're really fat. They're primarily fat for fuel. What else? What else do we have that it would be high quality protein sources? Throw them out there. What? Salmon? Yes. Omega 3s.
Chicken.
Chicken. Yep. Eggs? My favorite. What else?
Salmon.
Don't be afraid to say ham. Don't be afraid to say Canadian bacon. It's okay. Pork. What else?
Ground turkey.
Yeah, what else? No one said beef yet. Beef! Yeah. Beef is not off limits. Beef is almost like carbs. People are like, I don't eat beef. Okay. Why? I just don't. Okay. Why don't you eat beef? Well, I heard my friend from the gym said that it makes you fat. Okay. No. Eating in a calorie surplus makes you fat. And eating too much in a calorie deficit will also make you fat. Because what did I say? The next time you go for your cheat meal, or you go to have alcohol, you're going to store all those calories. Because your body needs it. It wants to take you back to homeostasis. It's a safe place. So you're going to be fighting and fighting and fighting with yourself if you don't figure out where your calorie balance is and where your energy balance is. And the combination of fats and carbs is important. So what you find, and if you feel like, I don't want to reach out to Kelly, I just feel like she hasn't seen anyone as bad as me, you're wrong. You are wrong, trust me. What I would say to you is this: if you're eating 50% of your calories from fat, and you have more than 20 pounds of fat to lose, you need to tap the brakes a little. That's a lot. Okay? And if you're eating 50% of your calories from carbs and fat, that's 100% for the day, and you're getting very little protein, which I see a lot, folks. We need to work on getting more protein in the diet, right? So there's an awesome graph on MyFitnessPal, and when you finish all of your logging, you can go back through the days, and you can see, oh wow, this day I ate 67% of my calories from carbs, only 50% from fat, and 12% from protein. You're normal. That's what I see very frequently. Or I see 75% intake from fat, 10% intake from carbs, and 5 to 10% intake from protein. And I'm like, whoa, this person is definitely keto, which is also okay, because we can fix any of these problems. We just have to figure out how can we get you to energy balance, okay? Yes?
What is the ideal ratio of fat, protein, and carbs?
Great question. Great question. And that's actually a coaching question, so you're gonna get an advanced answer tonight. So it differs. She asked, what would the perfect ratios be? For your total calories, if you're at a 33, 33, 33, you're doing pretty awesome. If you are an athlete, 30% protein, 40% carbs, teenagers, 50, 40 to 50, and about 20 to 25% fat, 20 to 30% fat for most adults, you're doing pretty well. Don't feel bad if it's totally off the charts in one direction versus the other. You're totally normal. That's why we're here. We have to figure out, by looking at the data, what areas can we improve. We can't do any of that. Like Dr. Leanne has you come in, she has you do a x-ray to look at where the problems are so that we can create a path that is purposeful to get you to where you need to be. And a lot of times, it's not as long as people think it's gonna be. And sometimes it's longer, just like the marriage, right? They're good marriages. Even though sometimes they're not easy, they're good, right? Like Joshua, he could have been to his goal within 8 to 9 months, but I would rather feed him more food and have him enjoy the program than have him have to go into a calorie deficit that's gonna make it painful for him. And that is the same thing that I've done with Leanne, and I've let her be the one to tell me, I don't feel like I have enough food. Okay, we're gonna go a little slower on your fat loss. Why? Because I don't want her to quit the only thing that has ever worked for her, right? So we need to figure out, is a person eating 1,000 calories for 2 days and then binging at 1,800, which by the way is not a binge, it's what your body needs. Look at your sheet. I'm right. Some of you, it's even higher. For most of my guys over 250, you're in the 3,000 category right there, right? So even if you did nothing, you'd be maintaining your weight if you hit your macros. So if we have you in a 200 calorie deficit, but you're able to eat the things that you love in moderation, are you gonna stick with the plan? Yes, because it's not too much. And you don't need to be overstimulated with all these food rules. Because as I've shown you, or as I've told you today, there's very little legitimacy to any of these myths. Let's hear some myths. I need some myths. Let's dispel them. Nobody has any.
You should be fasting.
You should be fasting. Who would that be good for? It might be okay for somebody who has issues with their GI tract. Why? Because the GI is working all day long when you eat these ridiculous 7 meals. It never has a chance to rest. You're snacking all day. You're spiking insulin every single time you eat, every time. So if you snack 10 times, you have 10 insulin spikes. Wouldn't it be better to prep 3 meals and wait longer between eating and have an eating window that's 10 to 12 hours? Intermittent fasting, you do not lose more body fat doing it. It doesn't matter what your eating window is, but it does matter if you're in a calorie deficit or not. That's a good question, and I get that a lot, because intermittent fasting is huge right now. And I'll be honest with you, I have insulin resistance, and I intermittent fast, because it's better for me. I also have Crohn's disease, which is also a GI issue. It's an autoimmune disorder. I find that I feel better if I don't eat all of my food in large quantities, too many meals throughout the day. And my insulin shows, because I was at 5.9, I'm now 4.2 fasted glucose. So they say, you have no insulin resistance anymore. And I'm like, okay, it's controlled with diet. So I figured out what works really well for me, but what works well for me may not work well for Susan. She might like to have 5 meals because she finds that that fits her schedule better and her preference better, and that's okay. But 7 meals is a lot of prep. None of us have time for that, do we? 3 meals we can do. I always ask my clients to start with 2 healthy prepped meals and a couple packaged items that they really like, and maybe a protein shake of their choice that they like. And there are some good ones out there. If you have not found them, you need to ask Dr. Leanne or me, and we will point you in the right direction, because there's some great ones that taste amazing with even water. And then you find some packaged food that you really love that might not be highly processed, that is still really good for you, and you fill in the gaps. Yeah.
What about juicing?
What about juicing?
Yeah, like with.
That's a great
hot dog
question.
protein.
That's a great question. So we have what's called the thermic effect of food, and with satiation, the one thing you do not get with juicing is satiation. You might be full for about an hour to an hour and a half, and then you're hungry again. Why? The protein that you're drinking doesn't take any calories to break down because it's liquid. Same thing with the berries, right? Anything you puree, is if you remove the pulp especially, now if you keep the pulp in, you'll get a little fiber, but you don't have a solid source of fat or protein in there, so that's going to go through you more quickly. It's probably going to keep your insulin a little higher as well for longer, especially if you remove the fiber. Yes?
I think a good plan to, like, if someone has cancer, diabetes, or advanced disease, they may need to do more of an anti-inflammatory diet, like an advanced plan or ketogenic diet, or something where it's like lower inflammation, but not forever, right? So
Yeah.
your body's healthy, so maybe that might happen too.
Yeah, and again, if you do have cancer or epilepsy, the ketogenic diet is the way to go. And you can track macros and do that too. But you've got to track them if your goal is to lose body fat. And if your goal is to get some of the weight off around your midsection, you are going to have to work at it, so you are going to still have to track your macros. Whether you're keto, whether you're anti-inflammatory diet, which, by the way, worked very well for me to take Crohn's into remission. I ate very little processed and packaged foods, and I will tell you this, I hated it. I cried a lot. I had no joy, couldn't go out with my friends. It was very difficult, and I did it. And I stuck with it for a long time, because it was the only method for me, because Crohn's is like cancer. If you don't take care of it, it will get worse. It'll only be a matter of time before you have to have a very expensive surgery and you lose half of your colon, right? So there are always these extreme cases. 80-20 is the best approach in my opinion. I do more of a 90-10 because I have to, because I have insulin resistance. So if I don't have one thing every day that I really like, I will binge just like you guys. I will. I'll eat too much. Yeah.
How about fasting?
Fasting?
Fasting.
Yeah, we just covered that. Intermittent fasting, where you fast. It really doesn't matter if you eat all your food in a 6-hour window, which kind of doesn't make sense, because if you think about an efficiently burning fire and you put a huge log on it, it's going to smother the fire, right? Well, that's the way the metabolism is. So if you put a big meal or 2 meals within a short time frame, you're now in a calorie surplus for a long period of time. So you're going to be up here, coming down. This is why I say, don't eat all your food at night. Why would you eat all your food at night? That's when you should be losing fat. You're not even awake. You don't need to burn energy. You should be fasting at night. So why not use your sleep to fast? And then set a reasonable eating window for yourself. If you're comfortable eating at 8, great. If you're comfortable eating at 10, great. I eat from 10:30 usually in the morning, not standard time, to about 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes I taper it off around 8:30. I might eat at 8, and I always keep my eating window pretty much the same. It doesn't matter for fat loss. It's all about your energy balance. So if you want to eat 1,800 calories in 6 hours, good luck. It's hard. But if you want to eat your 1,800 calories in 10 hours or 12 hours, it'd be a little easier to do that, wouldn't it? Otherwise, you're going to be in a big, big deficit, and the next time you overeat, and it's going to happen, it's all going to fat storage. Yes?
What about, people say that you shouldn't ever skip breakfast, and you should eat your breakfast
That's a
within
myth.
a certain.
That's a myth. Thank you.
I wonder-
That's a myth. If you don't like breakfast, you don't need to eat it.
Wow.
But let me tell you the downside to that. The reason you're not eating breakfast is because you guys have trained yourself not to be hungry. And your insulin doesn't know that you need more because you've trained yourself not to be hungry. You have breakfast for 3 days in a row, you'll be hungry for it. You will retrain your insulin within 3 to 4 days. And that would be better because then you won't be binging at night. Yeah,
Do I need to have protein within a half an hour after working out?
that's a myth. Thank you. That's bro science. Yes, all the new data, and my best friend, one of my very, very best friends, Alan Aragon, who is the nutrition researcher, does the actual studies himself, actually just did the most conclusive essay on protein requirements after training. You don't need to slam your protein shake within 30 minutes. You can get your meal in whenever you want to. I would tell you guys that there is a small anabolic window. It would probably be good to get it in sooner than later, okay? Because muscles then start to repair immediately after tearing, and that's what causes you to change shape, right? Is adding muscle. You cannot add muscle mass unless you are close to a calorie surplus. So if some of you are overeating right now, but your goal is to get leaner, you're okay. Because all you have to do is lift heavy weights and slowly lower your calorie intake. I don't mean drop it by 500 calories. I mean slowly lower it 50 to 80 calories every couple weeks, right? So that you can sustain that weight loss. What Americans do, and Canadians probably do this too, they drop everything out and they say, okay, I'm gonna start on Monday. I'm going to the gym, I'm gonna do 7 days a week, 7 days. I'm gonna eat no pizza for 9 months. I'm gonna eat no carbs after 5 p.m. Why? Does that even make sense? Is there a food fairy that comes in at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time and says, that's all going to fat storage? No. Physiologically, none of this stuff makes sense. It is all lies. And most of it is lies to get you guys to buy supplements and wraps and detoxes. You don't need that. Now, if you don't eat vegetables, you do need a greens powder. If you don't eat any fruit and you get 0 micronutrients, and our quality of food in the United States and Canada is not very good. That being said, if you're not on a multivitamin or fish oil, and you don't eat very high dietary fat, I would highly recommend getting on a good high quality multivitamin and fish oil. I would also highly recommend getting a good high quality protein powder, because when you guys track, what you're gonna see is that I'm exactly right, you don't get enough protein. You don't, trust me, there might be some bros in here that do, but I doubt it. Because when I said raise your hand if you're very athletic or you are an elite athlete, no one really raised their hand. So I think you're active. Yes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I can barely get to 150 on an average day.
Protein.
Yeah, and I'm around close to 200, but just under.
You're a little low.
It's
We can
hard,
fix
though.
that. Protein powder.
I already take 2 a day. It's very
Okay, we can fix it. Greek yogurt.
Eat that too.
Like that?
Maybe I'm higher than I think.
Mix your Greek yogurt with your protein powder. It's delicious. Yeah, it's awesome. Vanilla is really good with any kind of protein powder. So that's the next thing, is how do we increase these things, right? Most of you don't even know, oh, cheese has protein. Canadians love cheese, right? Who in here doesn't like cheese? That's a record. Nobody. I love Canadians. Oh, I love Canada. The money's pretty, the people are pretty, everyone's nice, except at the airport. I was like anxiety central at the airport. I had to come to Susan's farm just to chill out a little bit with the goats. Man, I'm telling you, I had the French Canadians yelling at me about this, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and I thought, oh, I'm supposed to go over here, and they're like, didn't you check in at that kiosk? No, because our kiosks are actually for checking in, not checking my food and my baggage. Okay, I'm so confused, right? And they got really upset with me. TSA also stopped me and patted me down 15 times because of all my food in my pack. So, if you're flying internationally, that can be a bit of a challenge, but we can work through that together too, because all of Dr. Leanne's clients that I have usually fly internationally, and some of them don't, but a lot of them do. And we make it work. And again, they're gonna always stop you and say, is that frozen? So, it's simple. So there's really no reason for us to be on and off a plan all the time. We're gonna be in it, even if we suck for a couple days out of the week, right? Let's say we have a day where we didn't eat very much, and we have an emotional meltdown, and we decide to go out for dinner, and we proceed dinner with 3 drinks. You're not off your plan. Tomorrow, you're gonna get right back on track, and you're not gonna feel guilty about it. You're gonna get right back on track. And then if you see that you're doing that every single week, you have a problem. And that needs to be addressed. So you need to ask yourself, what's causing you on Friday to feel this need to go out and have all these extra things, and you can fix that. Yeah.
What about when you go on like all-inclusive vacations?
Easy. You've been practicing your skills of putting proteins, carbs, and fats and fiber together at home on your food scale. Guess what you're going to be able to do when you go on vacation? You're going to be able to go on the buffet and go, too high of fat? I don't really need that. I'd rather have an eclair, thank you. I take one of those. Oh, I love Canadian bacon. That's good. Oh, too much fat. Only a little, please. I'm missing fiber. Oh, here's a salad bar. Eclair, protein and fat, salad bar, fiber and carbs, right? But really more carbs in the eclair. We've got a perfect picture right there. So you get the things that you like because you know how to do it because you've been measuring it at home. And now when you go out, it's no different. Because you learned what does 100 grams of potato look like? What does a cup of rice look like on your plate after you've taken it out of the cup, right? What does 100 grams of rice look like versus a cup? Everything is different until you learn it, right? You cannot get distraught about vacations. You cannot go, oh, I track macros except when I go out to dinner. No. Look at the menu ahead of time. Find a few things that you would like to have. Put it in your data. Work backward for the day. Cool, right? Your breakfast might be poverty macros. Your lunch might be a little leaner meat. You might have some turkey on some low-fat bread. And now you have all your fats for your dinner meal out with your spouse or your friends or your loved ones, and you don't have to be off your plan. Isn't that nice? We're going to be in it, even if we're not perfect. Because this program is not about being perfect, it's about staying consistent, because consistency over the long period of time is going to reap the best reward, benefit, right? So anything that you keep with, you're going to see great results with. And if you go all in, you're going to quit. Because you're going to want to be perfect, and you'll never learn how to have flexibility when you go on a cruise, when you go to Europe. It's not a problem. If you learn it at home, you can do it on the road, and you won't blow it out because you ate your meals, so you're not really hungry enough to have a whole pizza in Europe because you ate your meals. Yes?
I just wanted to add to that because I have been on the program. When you talked about, it's really easy to do it and you don't feel like you're letting your friends down. You do it sort of discreetly. You can take a picture of it and check in later and, add it all up. So you can still go out with your friends. You can still go out with your family. And you're not like, oh, I can't do anything because I'm on a Yeah.
Social aspect. So like Leanne said, she didn't even want to go out to eat at all because it caused her so much anxiety and grief. I was the same way. I didn't eat out for 10 years. Boring. Probably why I'm still single. I mean, imagine that. Not even going out to eat. It's the most fun thing that you can do in certain situations with the people that you love to be around. Food is about tasting and enjoying. And like Shelley said, if you know and you've done it a couple times and you've made mistakes, good job. Because now you know what to do better the next time, right? And so you don't perfect it the first time, and maybe you take a picture of your meal because you didn't plan ahead, then you put it in your database and you get home and you go, shoot, I was over today on the macros. Do not quit. That means that next time you need to plan better to have more macros left for your dinner, and then work backward for the day and have a little bit less carbs and fat at lunch and a little bit less carbs and fat at breakfast, and maybe you don't have a snack that day because you're going to have your snack macros as part of your dinner meal, right? Yeah.
Most restaurants have the nutrition, so it was a freedom for me because I could go online and see what was on the menu.
She goes online and she sends me the menu and she says, I'm going to have this, and I go, you got this. You know everything that's in this because you've measured every single thing at home that's on that menu. So we know that rice is about this amount. I'm going to go ahead and say add this amount of macros to your placeholder, and that is essentially what you guys will do if you don't know exactly what's going to be served. And maybe you look at the plate when it comes and you see that it's like 2 or 3 servings of something. Stick with the plate method. If it's bigger than your hand and there's not salad on there, then you probably got a good portion, right? Or maybe you do a hand and a half, but you don't need to do 3 hands unless you have starved all day, and then you're gonna binge. Some of us have bigger hands too. I'm lucky I've got really big hands, but small feet, so I'm like, yeah, I can eat plate method, you know? But if you look at it, like the thumb should be the amount of fat, so that's an ounce usually, very close to an ounce of fat, which an ounce of cheese is about 10 grams of fat, 9 to 10 grams. Some of them are lower than others. You look at the fingers, right, and that would be about the serving size of your carbohydrates, but for some of us, that's not gonna be enough. Like me, that's not gonna be enough. Leanne, that's not gonna be enough. Joshua, that wouldn't be enough. He could actually have that whole bag of popcorn in one day. Mm-hmm.
I've done it.
But why?
What about those of us who are special diet and are restricted, like I'm a celiac?
Every food has macros.
Yeah.
So all your foods have macros too. You eat what you eat. Yep.
You just don't have as much choice when you
You
go
got
to a
it.
restaurant.
Yes. Same here. That's why I didn't go out for 10 years. Because I was so intimidated. But once you get that knowledge and you're like, okay, I'm gluten-free. Do you guys have any potatoes that haven't been cross-contaminated? And they're like, oh, are you gluten-free? Every place knows about gluten-free. They're dealing with gluten-free, vegans, people who can't have, dairy, you name it. So they're very accommodating now, I find, but you have to ask. So you have to ask questions. And a lot of these places have gluten-free menus too. For people with celiac, it's a huge issue. And cross-contamination would be a huge issue too, so you do need to be more careful. These are great questions. Normally I get you wouldn't even believe it. Yeah.
Well, there is a diet, I guess they call it the blood
type diet.
Works on glucose and all that. Any comments on that or food combining?
Do not buy that book. There's no data to prove that any of that has any validity. If there is data, I would love to see it. And if there's 3 pieces of conclusive data, I would really love to see it. Because I stay up on pretty much everything, and I will tell you there's very little validity to the blood type diet. Because there's no data. Yes?
I recently joined Weight Watchers.
Great.
Great?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Teaches you portion sizes.
When I track my food,
Mm-hmm.
their whole system it's amazing. Like they have,
It's amazing, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So it makes things really easy. But is that kind of like they allow you so many points per day?
Their point system is different from macros, yes.
Okay.
But they teach you how to have portions of carbs, fiber, fat, and protein for your RMR. However, your resting metabolic rate might be different from somebody else of your age, weight, and height, right?
Yeah.
With a different background. So that's not something that we can put our finger on exactly, but we can get close. Weight Watchers is good. It teaches you portion control. However, the problem I have with it is it's all packaged food. Unless you prep. You could use the system prepping and that would be totally fine.
Yeah.
But it's different from macros, yes.
But can you kind of combine?
Yes,
Okay.
you can. It's a great stepping stone.
Yeah.
So is Jenny Craig. It teaches you portion control. But for some people, those portions are not big enough. That's what I mean, is every single one of you is a different equation in this room. So your needs might be different from her needs, from his needs. And somebody who's already fit, they probably are doing a very good job of moderating their caloric intake, right? I know when I'm getting a little out of hand because I see that scale and I go, okay, time to tap the brakes. We need to bring those calories down a little bit this week and a little bit next week. And then I'm finding I know what will happen when I do that. But I've done it already. So people get anxious about it. So what you need to do is track, just like you came in for your first consultation with Leanne and she looked at your spine and said, these are things that are really good. These are the things that need work. And these are the things that need immediate attention. Nutrition is the same way. Most of you are going to just find that you are very deficient in one area. And that's okay, because it's easy to fix that. You can go online, you can look at Google and look up what foods have only carbohydrates, no fat, no protein. That way you're not sitting there playing macro Tetris all day. Right, Shelley? Oh, Barb, do you play macro Tetris every day? Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you recommend not eating so long before you go to bed?
No, there's no validity to it. However, here's the thing. If you eat a majority of your food at night, you have now cut your fasting window, right? So you now have cut your potential to lose body fat for 7 to 8 hours while you sleep. Why would you want to do that? So I would say this, come out with a bang in the morning. Have a good, decent, medium-sized meal at lunch. If you're gonna go out for dinner, obviously, you can't come out with a bang at breakfast. But eating out doesn't happen every single day for most people. That's a treat. So maybe you vary from your schedule for one day. That's fine. Don't weigh yourself the next morning. Why would you do that? You're gonna be up, for sure. Because your body has not used all of that fuel. You were in a calorie surplus all night. Wouldn't it be better for us to be using our fuel when we're most active and then be in a calorie deficit at nighttime? For at least 4 hours, maybe 3. Some of us in here probably sleep less than 6 hours, raise your hand. You need to work on that. That's an immediate. Okay? And the reason is, people who sleep the least have a lower life expectancy, and your hormones are going to be insufficient way more quickly than someone who sleeps longer. Because everything that happens in our body for repair happens at night. Testosterone production, growth hormone production, protein plaques are wiped off your brain. When you don't get into REM, that doesn't happen. And that's why you don't feel as good as you age sometimes, because you don't sleep, right? So we never get that. Yeah?
What about shift workers?
Very difficult. They have the worst hormone profile that I've seen. I have never had a shift worker start with me. I've worked with over 8,000 people in my career. I've never had one shift worker with normal lab work. Not one. I'd love to see it though, because I'd be like, man, your genetics. Or I'd be like, what do you do on your days off? Because I'm very curious. My mission is to help shift workers like firemen and police officers, and I've got a lot of them, to get back on their normal circadian rhythm as much as possible when they have their days off. It will really help you to make sure that you have the same eating window on the days that you're working and the days that you're off, too. That'll really help with your blood sugar. But hormonally, it's difficult. Yep, and all the data definitely shows that. That's conclusive right there. Shift workers have a lot of data, night shift workers. Yeah.
Those resting metabolic rates, the 1.2, 1.3, have I got that correct?
Yes.
How do you determine your exact resting?
You would have to go and have what we call like metabolic testing done, and even that's gonna have some variable. So I use that as a target. You're gonna probably be within about 100 to 150 calories of that target, okay? I wouldn't spend the $200 to do it unless you are really serious about changing your entire life. And then I would say, go do the VO2 max testing, VO2 max. Find out if you're a sugar burner or a fat burner or both. Find out which one you're more efficient at, and then we can change that. Isn't that awesome? Quickly, too. And then you'll also find out what your RMR is based off of VO2 max. And I would also get DEXA scan, body fat testing done. Do not do in-body. If you do that, you're gonna jump off a cliff. Yeah.
Are those scales
No, that's what I mean.
accurate?
Don't jump off a cliff. Yes. Are we done? We have to wrap it up. They're gonna come and get us. So if any of you guys have questions or you want to send your data over, my email's on the very bottom of the back page, I think. Ah! It's not, you guys. Yes, write this down. Kelly, Kellii. Michelle, not to be confused with the French spelling. Fitness, FITNESS.
All one word?
All one word, all lowercase, @gmail.com. And all you have to put in the subject line is seminar, and I'll know exactly what's going on. Yes?
Just wanted to stress something. So, if you're gonna do it, and I highly recommend you do, I'll just say that. If you're gonna track what you're doing for a week and then send it to her, don't try and eat clean for that week. Eat the way you normally do. I did it for 2 weeks, and it freaked me out because I was talking to Doc, and I was like, okay, yeah, I've just been working, I haven't had a chance to eat. And she's like, what would you normally do? I was like, go to Wendy's and order 2 meals. She's like, do it. So I sent her, there were days when I was eating like 1,000 calories and almost no protein, and then I went out for all you can eat sushi and had 4,800 calories in one lunch. If that's what you normally do it and send it to her because she needs accurate information in order to know how to start you. Because if you're super in a deficit, she's gonna have to augment that. So don't think, oh, someone's gonna see this and judge me. And then there was one more thing. If you're gonna do it, again, I highly recommend you do. Don't worry about the scale. I lost 2 pounds in the first month, or 3 pounds in the first month, and I've lost 15 pounds in a week before, easy, because my weight went up and down. But when I measured myself, I was down 2 inches, and I've never done that before. So don't worry about the scale. You're gonna have to weigh yourself a lot. It's gonna go slow, but the results, people literally don't recognize me. People that I haven't seen in a couple of months, they'll walk right past me and not even know it's me. It's awesome.
That was the show. Yes, you guys, thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.
I just want to say one thing, because some of you guys were at the seminar we did a couple weeks ago, so I just want to make sure, like, as much as we're talking about the program, we still try to eat the 80-20 rule, so I still eat 80 to 90% of my food is real life food. Every day I eat something I love to eat, but that's what allows me to keep doing it. So what I found to be the most important is consistency. So like Josh said, sometimes there's days where you eat almost no food because you didn't have time, and then the next day you eat 7,000 calories, and the next day you eat 2,000, the next day you eat 100, right? So what happens is our hormones are all over the place. So one of the biggest things that I found most successful was consistency. Every day having the same amount of food allows your body to have that consistency. And so I still eat a lot of the advanced plan foods we talked about, but I allow myself to have something I enjoy, because every time I try to do the advanced plan 100%, I just would fall away every time. So your body knows what to do and how to do it if you give it what it needs. And if you give it those proper proportions, your body absolutely knows how to function, how to heal, and how to operate. So I just want to say thank you so much for Kelly for being here. She flew in from Arizona, so if we can give a big round of applause. If you guys do send your data over, please please realize this is a huge ginormous group, and she already has multiple clients, so she will not be able to actually answer emails at this point.
It'll be a week.
It'll at least be a week, but you have to
Yeah.
track for a week before you send. So, just know it's not that she won't get back to you, there's a big group of people, and I have a feeling a lot of people are gonna wanna touch base with you, so, please know that, she will get back to you, it's that she's also got a lot of people to answer to. So, I'm really excited, please use myself as a resource, guys, because I've been doing this for 2 years now. So, again, it's been slow and steady, but I've been able to do this for 2 years. I've never done any diet plan for 2 years, ever. I'm lucky if I can make it through 2 full weeks without falling off the wagon. So, you know, it's been a slow and steady race, but time's gonna pass anyway. You might as well be spending that time reaching a goal and moving forward towards something. So, if you need anything, guys, reach out to me. Kelly's there as well. But very excited. Thanks for being here tonight. Have a great night, guys.
If you guys have Instagram, you can also follow me. I put a lot of really good free information onto the Instagram every day. And it's Macro Coach Kelly with an I. MACRO Coach Kelly with an I. Yeah.